Now, did you hear what happened with the WBA this past weekend and the fight?
Yeah, I heard, and I'm disgusted.
Talk about that. Talk about that. And as it pertains to the WBA, and how does it work? The logistics. Who's in charge of the WBA in terms of the referees, in terms of paying the sanctioning fees, and how that correlates to the promotional company?
Well, it has to go back to the president, Gilberto Mendoza.
Sure.
He's the president. Everybody works for him.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever has a role, they have a role.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and one of the ways that there's questionable behavior is who are the judges assigned to the fight.
Sure.
And look at who they assigned to the fight. They had a judge from Panama. What did that mean? WBA's office, which was in Venezuela, has long ago moved because of what's happening in that country, to Panama. So this was a judge controlled by them. Singh, you know, I guess from his name, probably an Indian fellow, but nobody ever heard of, but it was one of their judges.
Right.
Secondly, they had this woman who is the wife of a guy who is known as a fixer in the WBA, Ricardo Rizzo, you know, who the less said about him, the better. This is his wife. And then we learned that not only is she the wife of this guy with probably an interest in the fighter, the Venezuelan fighter, but that she is an out-and-out crazy racist by the remarks that she made about black people, how she's a crazy Trump supporter. You got to read that stuff. It's horrifying.
Right.
Well, she was one of the judges, and she had the Venezuelan winning practically every round. And the third judge, nobody ever heard of, from Minnesota, but obviously somebody talked to this guy, because if you watch that fight, the black kid Fox won every single round. Maybe he lost a round or 2 rounds, but he certainly won at least 10 rounds, and also knocked down his opponent once. So it was an absolute bizarre thing. Now, I have experienced that in one of the, you know, it almost blew up internationally, the WBA. I share the promotional rights of a very good middleweight, Olympic gold medal winner, Murata from Japan. And he was fighting for one of the WBA bullshit titles, interim or whatever the hell they wanted to call it, in Japan, where there's a lot of money for fights and the networks support the fights. And Murata won the fight easily. And a similar set of judges scored the fight for this French guy, Van Dam. And there was a big uproar. And so everybody agreed, okay, we'll do the match again. And what does that mean? That all of these bandits got another taste of the apple.
Right.
And they got big money for that rematch. And Murata wasn't taking any chances with the judges. He went out and knocked out the French guy to win the title.
Gotcha.
So anytime you have a WBA situation, you have to hold your breath.
Wow.
That there's no kind of craziness going on. Now, you know, these are just 2 instances that I, one of which I was involved with, and this last one, of course, I wasn't involved with. But I really believe that if you want to bury the sport completely, you just let everything keep happening,
Mm.
and you don't take steps to remedy it.
Gotcha. And what? How do you define fixer? You labeled him a fixer. What does that mean?
A guy who, for example, if you have a fighter and you want the fighter to fight for a title, he will somehow finagle that fighter into the number one position, so the fighter becomes a mandatory.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And how's your relationship with him? So just so we can have full disclosure.
My relationship with him is I say hello to him when I see him, but I know who he is, and I never want to use him. There have been other instances where he does a tap dance, and he has associates around the world that work with him. I don't want to give them names and get involved in litigation, but I think it's very important that there is a complete investigation of the structure of the WBA, and it probably should be conducted by the boxing commissioners in the United States. That would be a good start. And maybe have the Japanese commission take part. And let's see what's going on. And let's see if any of this suspicious actions we can learn why they're happening.
So
that boxing needs that. I know there's a lawyer in New Jersey, Pat English, that is contemplating or has brought a RICO suit against the WBA. And if that goes forward, we'll learn a lot more about how they operate and why they do what they do and who is behind. I mean, who is the managers, the actual managers of this Venezuelan fighter fighting for some kind of cockamamie title with a record of 3-0.
Right.
A 36-year-old Venezuelan. Yeah. I mean, that stinks to high heaven.
Yeah. His name is Ned Have you heard the name Ned Abdul before?
No.
Okay. I actually did research on this as well, because I was like, I need to find who's behind the veil. Ned Abdul is actually the owner of the Armory. He paid $6 million for it in downtown Minneapolis. And 2, he is now the manager of David Morrell, who is the interim 168-pound WBA champion. Which is, I think Warriors Boxing is the promotional outfit of him. I forget yeah.
Bring them all in and have them testify.
Bring them all in. Yeah. All right.
That's all I have to say. Maybe everybody is doing, Mother Teresa's work, but
sure. Right. Quite possibly.
It sure needs an investigation.